light to let you know that it works.
Good morning, guys. Good afternoon. Listen in. Full tape.
Is Thursday, July 24th. This will be a recording of a proffer agreement of Ghislaine Maxwell from the Deputy Attorney General, DOJ, and the time is currently 9:16. Maxwell and counsel are arriving to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and we will commence the proffer shortly.
I'm gonna ask them to put the name on the record.
Can everybody hear?
My name is Assistant Special Agent in Charge Spencer Horn of FBI New York. Today we're doing a proffer of Ms. Maxwell. The date is July 24th, and the time is 10:12 a.m. This interview is being recorded.
And my name is Todd Blanche. I'm the Deputy Attorney General, and
This is the part one, ladies and gentlemen, with Todd Blanche. I'm going to step away and listen.
asking questions of Ms. Maxwell. I'm gonna put on the record everybody that's in this room in addition to me. Starting with you, Diego.
Diego Pistona, Associate Deputy Attorney General.
And then you heard from Special Agent in Charge Horn. Mark Beard from the United States Marshal Service is here as well. And then David.
Yes, this is David Oscar Marcus, and I'm counsel for Ghislaine Maxwell.
My name is Leah Sapian, and I'm counsel for Ghislaine Maxwell.
My name is Melissa Maxwell, and I'm counsel for Ghislaine Maxwell.
Go ahead.
And I'm Ghislaine Maxwell.
Good morning, Ms. Maxwell. How are you?
Good morning, Mr.
Good.
Blanche.
Okay, so before we started recording, we met for a few minutes. I introduced myself and we chatted, and now I told you that we were going on the record. And before we start asking questions, I know that you've been given by your lawyer a copy of what's called a proffer agreement. And I just want to spend 2 minutes making sure that you understand what governs our conversation today. The most important part of this agreement is that this isn't a cooperation agreement, meaning that by you meeting with us today, we're really just meeting. I'm not promising to do anything. I'm not promising to ask Judge Nathan or any of the judges that's been assigned to your case.
Whoa! I'm not promising you anything. Listen in. This is getting good.
That's the most important part of this agreement. However, almost as important is the fact that what this agreement does for you is it gives you protection. So
Protection.
what it means is that the government
Protection.
cannot use what you say today against you, with some exceptions, which we'll talk about in a minute. But whatever you talk about today, you have what's called immunity. So that means that the words that you say today, we cannot use against you in a case in chief if we were ever to bring one. Okay?
Thank you.
There's exceptions to that. The most meaningful one of which is that if you say something today that's not true, that's a lie, we can bring a prosecution against you for what's called false statements. So I'm a federal officer. I have several officers here. The FBI is here, and if you lie to someone that's like me or like Special Agent Horn, it's a crime. So you have to be truthful. The other exception to this that doesn't necessarily apply directly to you, but if there ever was a retrial in your case, or if there ever was a criminal case, a future criminal case against you, and your lawyer or you said something different or took a position that's different than what you said.
Good morning, everybody.
We can then cross-examine you or witness based upon what you say today. So it's a little bit nuanced, meaning I can't use what you say against you in our case in chief. However, if you were to testify, or if your lawyer called a witness to testify, and they said something that's totally different than what you say today, we could then cross-examine you or the witness and say, hey, do you remember when we met with Ms. Maxwell back in July of 2025? She told us, and then say what she said. Okay?
I understand.
Okay. Other than that, I know you didn't have a lot of time this morning to meet with Mr. Marcus, but did you have a chance to go over this briefly with him?
I did.
Okay. All right. So I've already signed it, as has Special Agent Horn, and Mr. Marcus signed it as well. So you got a pen? Please sign it right where it says clients. Yep. And I will provide a copy of this to your lawyers so you guys have it. Okay. Thank you. So Ms. Maxwell, about a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago,
Just a very light one down there. On the- Yeah, there it is.
okay, we're just confirming that it works and it does. Ms. Maxwell, I guess about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, Mr. Marcus reached out to me and said that you wanted to speak with somebody from the government about not only your case, but about everything that's been in the media and that's been publicized about Mr. Epstein in your case.
I want everybody to hear.
I did speak to him.
Listen to this.
I did ask him if, did tell him that I was very keen to talk to anyone because no one from the government at any time ever in the 16 section of the case, so dating back to the early 2000s, has ever spoken to me, and indeed I believe ever reached out to me at any time to even speak to me, and that includes up to when I was indicted and prosecuted. I believe that, or I understand I should say rather, that my attorneys at the time did tell the government that I wanted to speak to them because I was very keen to meet with anyone so that I could tell or have them ask me any question. I've never had any problem to speak to anybody, and I offered myself. And I kept asking if they would maybe so I could talk to them, and for whatever reason, that was not happening.
Okay. I have questions that I want to ask you, but I'm not, if there's a question that I'm not asking that you think should be asked, I invite you to volunteer. Same thing goes to your lawyers. Just to start a little bit, very briefly, can you talk about when you first met Mr. Epstein? I know that goes back a while, and just very generally talk about your relationship with Mr. Epstein from the time you met him all the way up until his death.
I met Mr. Epstein in 1991. I'd never heard of him or met him before, and no one in my family had ever either. My father never knew him, and I'll explain why that is the case.
Where did you meet him?
I had a girlfriend who I moved to America briefly I moved to America in 1990.
Okay.
I moved, it's a bit like, I'd come to visit America in 1990. I had been running my own company up until that time, which was a company called Maxwell's Corporate Gifts. And I had also been working for my father at the time. I had multiple jobs with him. I was, in 1990, I was working with a new company of his, a new newspaper that he was launching called The European. And I was in charge of launching a magazine to go with the European. And I was traveling at that time from England to America because my father was looking to, he'd also bought Macmillan, the publishing house, and he had purchased the New York Daily News. And it's true to say that my father always wanted me to come back, go full-time and work for him, but that's a much longer story. I don't think we need to go into it this time. So, but I was always working with him. There was no escaping, as it were, to work for him.
Do you guys listen how she's going into her family when she got there? That there tells me almost everything I need to know about her being just a pathological liar. Okay, she's under oath to answer questions about allegedly some kind of a client list. Now I'm finding out, and we're going to talk about this later on. There's never been a client list. They never had a client list, and we'll never even know about this client list. Take a listen then. Good morning, everybody.
So in 1990, I had come over to New York to help look at some of that. She was having some advertising issues with the New York Daily News, and in fact...
Welcome in, everybody.
I may have met Donald Trump at that time because my father was friendly with him.
The next couple minutes is about Donald Trump.
Very much, and I think it should be said that he also very much liked Ivana, because she was also from Czechoslovakia, where my dad was from. So I don't remember if I did meet him or not in 1990 with my dad, but I knew that's how I knew about Mr. Trump.
And this was before you met?
This is before I met.
Yeah, she has a client list. It's in her head.
Going backwards and forwards
You know,
about,
she has the list.
April of 1991, I came to New York. I can't remember for what reason, what business reason, but there was a business reason, something to do with my dad at that time. And a girlfriend of mine, who an American, told me I broken up with my long, I've been engaged, getting with a very long time boyfriend, and we've broken up. And she said, I got, as your girlfriends do, I got a guy for you to meet.
Good morning, everybody. We're going to be discussing a little bit of this, if you like, right after this short. Well, it's about 4 minutes left. This was Ghislaine Maxwell, just released on Friday. I got it here for you. It's all over. There's different versions, but some are longer than others. This particular part is on Donald Trump and former President Bill Clinton. But this is part one. Part two is going to come out. What I'm hearing real quick, and we're going to listen back, is she's going to get a lighter sentence. Whoa, this does not look good for Donald Trump. I'm going to give you my reasons why, if it's true. But let's listen in a little bit more. Good morning and good afternoon. Thank you for being here, like and subscribing.
And she goes, he's been dating my sister, and he'll love him, he's looking for a wife. I'm edging towards 30. I don't need to tell you guys that's a very important moment for a girl to like think about important things. Sure, I'd be happy to meet him. And so sometime in 1991, I met him at his offices on Maxwell. And I think the most memorable thing I can think about that is he was wearing a tie which didn't look good, and it had a giant tomato ketchup stain on it. So I was like, wow, okay. And that was how we met.
Was your meeting at his office for you to meet him just personally, or were you there for work-related reasons?
No, I knew nothing about him. He just invited me to come and have tea. And I was like, tea, that's English, okay. But what was unusual was in his offices. So I went to his offices and we met. And I found him very engaging and kind of stuff.
So, okay, so that's how you meet him. So, and again, I don't want to spend a lot of time, on this particular issue, but what happened with your relationship over the years, from the time you meet him in 1991 up until the time he passed away? Just give the highlights.
Okay, so I was looking for real estate for my dad to buy some, and Epstein told me that he was also looking to move from his apartment, and would I help?
This is very important, guys. DOJ asked about her money. Thank you, Terry. I appreciate that. Because why it's important is they're trying to trace the money with Ghislaine Maxwell, all right, Epstein. But you hear her say, my father, real estate, and that's going to kind of lead into Trump and everything else. So she's trying to pretty much, she's just, we'll discuss this a little bit. Listen in.
And I was sure I'm looking already, so I could look for him, so that's how it started. And then in 1991, my father passed away. And I returned to New York after that, originally to come back and help with family businesses, which was a meeting. And then the debacle of my father's passing hit the family, and we lost all our businesses, and my family thought that it would be best if I stayed in America because of the intensity of the press and the drama surrounding my father's death in England. So I stayed, and Epstein said, well, you can keep helping me, you can help me find a house.
Is that better, guys? Can you hear that?
They gave me something to do.
Were you in a romantic relationship with him at this point, or just
Yeah.
friends?
Just friends.
And while we're just, with respect to your father, there have been multiple questions about whether he worked for any intelligence agency. Do you have any knowledge about that?
I think, well, certainly my father had a background in intelligence because he was, I think he did in the Second World War, he was a British intelligence officer. I think that my sort of belief is that once you've been an intelligence officer, you're kind of, always, it doesn't mean that you're formally employed. So I don't think my dad in any formal sense was, employed by any agency, but when you are a very significant businessman and politician, as my father was, you meet with people all the time, and you, I guess, trade business or ideas. I think if that would fall under that definition, that's how I would think of it. Now, he certainly, I have no formal knowledge of anything specifically that he did in that thing, but if you're asking me if I thought that he did help people, the answer would be yes, I do.
Did your father and Mr. Epstein have a business relationship over the years? I know we're maybe jumping around a little bit tonight.
They never met. So
As far as you know, they never even met.
no,
Well, you know they never
I know they never met.
Well, how do you know they never met?
Just categorically no, they never met. Well, because after in 1991, before my father died, he asked me if I'd met anybody interesting or whatever, because I was still trying not to be sucked back into the family business. And I told him that I had met Mr. Epstein, and the reason why I shared that I'd met Mr. Epstein because I believed at that time that Epstein worked for Best Terms, and Best Terms was one of our banks. And I knew that my father was friendly with both Jimmy Kane and with Ace Greenberg. So my dad was actually in New York, I think. I don't think I had this conversation on the phone, but I honestly been talking 30 years ago, so I'm not sure. But maybe I told him this verbatim because I know that what my dad did, whether I saw it or whether he did it and told me later, I don't remember, but he called both Jimmy Kane and Ace Greenberg to ask what sort of guy he was and was he even allowed to give Bartman. So
They never met.
He didn't even know
But
who
they
he was.
they knew some of the same people. Sounds like certainly the Bear Stearns connection was something that you knew that they had.
No, well, he never had a connection with Epstein. He had a connection with the bank. I mean, Epstein, I'd never heard of him or knew of him before, and I certainly, if my dad had known him, right, when I said this is who he was, he didn't know who he was. So he rang Ace and he rang Jimmy to ask if it was okay that I even knew him. And I just want to explain briefly why my father would even do such a thing. I've had some interesting things that have happened in my life, and one of them was to be found on an IRA kidnap and murder list. And so after that happened, well, there were other related. I'm not going to bore you with all the horrible things in that vein, but if you want the details, of course, I can. But after that happened, my father wanted to put a lot of protection on me, obviously, and I declined on the grounds that that would be a very life-restricting event. You're all in law enforcement, I know you understand this. And so he had told me that, I would be taking my life in my own hands and whatever. And so I think after that event and several others where I had stalkers and all that thing that one has, he was always quite protective of me. And so if I met somebody, he would try and verify that they weren't going to do anything hideous. And so in case you thought it was weird that he would call Jimmy and Ace, you may think it is, but from my perspective, he was just because he was concerned I was in America, alone, and he had an opportunity to verify who this person was. And so I don't know if I was in the room with him, I don't recall it, but I know that at some point my father told me, he's fine, you can see it.
Yeah.
He's safe.
Okay.
Well, okay.
So we might come back and touch a little bit more on that at some point, but
Yeah,
I went down a rabbit hole for a minute.
that's all right, I just wanted to.
No, that's helpful. Thank you. So okay, so you're now in the 90s, and your friends with Mr. Epstein, your house, you decorate the house or the apartment. What happened with your relationship again? I know we're talking about a 35-year time period or whatever, but to the extent you can kind of at a very high level talk about it.
Listen, I think just full disclosure is the best way to go at this point.
Yeah.
So in 1992, I slept with him one time. And I was like, oh, that's it, we're going to be dating. Because that's how I thought. And I kind of thought of myself in that moment, like, because I felt if you slept with someone that you were then dating them. That's the world I came from. But that really was, well, that's how I thought. But we didn't sleep together again for, I don't know, really a significant period of time. And when I say
Years or?
I don't know if it's a year. That feels long, but maybe 9 months. I mean, a long time.
Okay.
I just want to go back. So I had found a house for him to rent in New York because he had asked me. I'd been looking on it for my father, and I found one, which was a former Iranian embassy. I think it was. I think it belonged to the Iranians or the Iraqis. Someone.
Okay.
And I didn't know that he had any money really. It was, I want to say it was $12,000 a month, which to me seemed like a fortune. And I said to myself, I found this house, but I don't think you can afford it. It's ridiculous. Of course I can afford it, rent it. And that house came, it was a State Department house because it was, I think it was under sequestration or whatever it was. And I put it back together with upset the rules couldn't paint because it had to go back when he gave it back to the country. So he had this house, and I had moved into a 10-foot by 10-foot apartment because all of our stuff had been either lost or frozen or whatever. So he became, in this moment of my life, really, because I was like, everything felt very similar to this moment, if that makes any sense. Anyway, so, but I had no key to his house, I had no free access to his house. And in the entire time that he lived there, which was, I believe, until the beginning of 1996, I never slept a single night in that house. Ever. Not once.
So you said a minute ago that that you had slept with him on one occasion, and at the time you remember thinking, that this meant you were in a relationship, but then it didn't. You really were not in that type of relationship.
Well,
did that change over between 91 and 92 or whatever, and years forward?
So I did travel with him a lot.
Okay.
So I would go to his houses in Palm Beach. He only had that house actually in No, that's not true. He had the house in Palm Beach and he had a house in Ohio.
In where?
Ohio.
Okay.
And he had the house in Ohio because of his business relationship with Mr. Wexler. And he had and I had to go and decorate and put that house together. And when we traveled together, we stayed in the same bed, but not in but I didn't.
Go ahead, it's okay. Talk. So you stayed, so when you would travel with him to his houses in Palm Beach, Ohio, or even just traveling, if it was just traveling with him, you would stay in the same bed, so sleep in the same bed with him?
Yes.
Okay.
Epstein told me that he had a heart condition.
Hey, what?
Heart condition.
Heart condition, okay.
Which meant that he didn't have intercourse a lot. Which suited me fine, because I actually do have a medical condition, which precludes me having a lot of intercourse.
So what was your understanding of his heart condition and why that prevented him from having intercourse regularly?
I don't know. I mean, he liked other forms of sexual activity.
Well, let's come back. We're going to obviously spend a lot of time on the actual conduct he was accused of, so we'll come back to that. So pick up where you were talking about, you were traveling around with him. He rented the New York, former Iranian house until around 96. That time, I believe you said that he was basically your life, like you were with him pretty regularly.
Well, no.
Okay.
So I never was with him regularly. That is one of those misnomers. I mean, at the beginning, I did see more of him, but I worked in his office. So I would go to the office and I would see him. And I would count in my head when I would see him, I would count that that'd be a day that I would see him. But I never ever stayed with him. I believe, certainly until 93 or 94, what I didn't know was that I think he was still with his actual girlfriend, who was Eva Anderson, who became Eva Dubin. They had been together, my understanding, I think about 10 years. I'm not sure, but that's what I think, 10 years. And I had understood from my girlfriend initially that they weren't together, and Epstein himself had told me that they were not together, but I don't think that was true. In fact, I know it's not true. So they were still together up until I think 94, when at some point in that period of time Eva met Glenn Dubin and they got married. I think in 94. I don't remember when they got married, but her, she was his best friend and his everything. He told me that he always wished that he had married her and had a child with her. And I know that she was family for him for his whole life. And I think even, I'm not sure this is true, but you guys will know if this is true or not. When he came back from Paris and you arrested him, I don't know if Eva was on the plane. Now, I think that either I read it in the discovery that I received, or I saw it somewhere, but even if she wasn't on the plane, there must have been some email communication where she was in Paris at the same time and going to fly back. One or the other, I don't know which one is the correct version of that. But so they were still obviously very close and remained throughout the entire fight. He saw her a lot. And so I also know now, which I didn't know at the time, was that he saw lots of other women. And I know that now because I can see it from the flight logs, and I know it now because I can see from the emails.
So you know from the case that what happened?
Yes, I didn't know. Contemporaneously, I absolutely didn't know.
So, okay, so just, and we're going to spend time on everything you're talking about, but just to kind of close out big picture your relationship. So we're now in the late 90s. Continue on with, again, same high level to the extent you can about your relationship with him.
So my responsibilities increased with each acquisition that he had and each new project. So I believe the first thing that he purchased after was the ranch in New Mexico.
Okay.
And so what he had tasked me with up until that, and I think that was purchased in 94, if I'm right. So he had tasked me, one of the things that we did was visit, in my mind I say every state, but it wouldn't have been every state, but many states, to go look at real estate property. And so I know we went to Montana, and I know we went to Utah, and it was to go look at real estate. It was fun, to be honest. And then I arranged for us to go to New Mexico, and he just loved New Mexico. And then I don't remember how the ranch happened. I don't remember that now. It's lost. And then he ended up buying the ranch, and I think, if I'm right, it came from the Kings, who may have been the governor. I bought the ranch, and then I had to deal with that. And dealing with that was extensive. I mean, the way that I thought of myself, or the way that I think is the best way to explain how I view my role was as a general manager, because each property to me was like a hotel. So the ranch was very challenging, because not only that, but it had BLM land. So to maintain your BLM, you had to have cattle. And I love animals, and so the first thing, horses, and so I wanted it. If you're going to have a ranch, I like authenticity. So I don't think you should have a ranch if you're not going to have the things that make it special.
So were you paid by him along the way?
So I
during this time?
became salaried at some point. My memory is that I got paid $25,000 a year to begin with. That's my memory. I may be wrong. And then with each, as it became more obvious, because I kept thinking I was going to have a home being in it. And but it.
Did you, and financially, you were not relying on him, the 25,000 or whatever amount you were paid, were you relying on that money to live and his generosity to live, or did you have your own money?
So there's a.
And again, I want to just make sure we're talking about like keeping it between like the late 90s, maybe I guess into a little of the 2000s.
I just want to hit something on the head right now. There's a tremendous amount of reporting that said that I had a trust fund. I have never had a trust fund at any time.
So how did you live? Did you live with 25,000 is not enough to live on.
Yeah, so I had, during this period of time, the Sears Ford Squad had come to see me in relation to my father's passing, and to establish whether I had been involved in any way with his business or with any shenanigans. I've told the story many times, so I don't know if it's now somewhat hypocritical, but I'll tell you what my memory is. So I received a letter from them that said, you can't go about my business. And my memory, maybe hypocritical, there was a PS that said, are you Snow White's cousin? I had nothing. I was never involved in any of his business, whatever, so I was free. And
But you're, obviously your father and your family had a lot of businesses. Is it because the money, whatever money or whatever equity was in the businesses, just stayed with your other family members?
No, there was no money. So my father was never attached to money. He was born a peasant, a real one. Dirt floor, no shoes, no clothes. Some clothes, but not, sorry, I don't mean to say, and nothing. And he was never into that. I mean, there were things that he had, his extravagances. He loved his boat and his pillow.
Sorry for the spelling, guys. I'm trying to type and watch your chat. What I wanted to put in is, it sounded like, oh, sorry, I'm listening. Just trying to put in our title. Thank you for being here, guys. Just a few more minutes. We're going to sit back and discuss. God bless everybody. Happy Sunday morning. Crazy stuff here. We're going to talk about it a little bit.
So obviously you need money for that, but there was nothing else. And there was not a single penny that came to any of us at any time, ever.
Okay, so when you're talking about your life with Mr. Epstein in the 90s,
Yeah, we're going to do a recap in a little bit. I just wanted to get everybody an opportunity to get caught up on this. Let me just caught up with the Ghislaine Maxwell. I know a lot of people, I know a lot of yous on here have listened to it already, but I want to give everybody an opportunity. We'll listen in a little bit more, and then we'll do a recap on everything. Thank you for being here, all moderators. A little something different on this Sunday. We're gonna go a few more minutes here.
you're not. You're very different financially. You're very different financially positioned than he is. Meaning,
Absolutely.
he's giving you money. He's paying for your when you fly. He also pays for your flights.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I interrupted you when you were saying how you were functioning as general manager. You helped with the New Mexico ranch. So did your role with him continue like that for many years, or for how long?
So I continued in 2000, well, by 1999, our relationship had foundered.
Why?
Well, two reasons. We were never sleeping together again, so we stopped having sexual relations in 1999. Not full sex, sorry, just to be clear. Didn't mean that we didn't still share a bedroom sometimes or whatever. He had another girlfriend.
Yeah, what?
Other girlfriends. I definitively knew that it was over after 9/11, actually, because we were both in New York. And I don't know, were you in New York? 9/11, I mean, 9/11's. And it was a scary time if you were in New York. You didn't know, I didn't know, nobody knew what was going on. And he was in 71st Street and I was in 65th Street, my house. And he wouldn't see me at all. Asked me, his mum, who I'm very close to, who's in the hospital at Lenox Hill, just asked me to look after her. And then I knew, as anyone did at that time, if you're not going to be there for someone at 9/11, you're never going to be there. So for me, that was the line in the sand. And he had another English girlfriend, actually, from 2000.
Are you though still on his? Are you still being paid by him at this point?
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead. So what? At that point, when you say you realized kind of.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about I had wanted to get married and have children. And Epstein had encouraged me to believe that would, I don't know about them, certainly by the late 90s anyway, the marriage part was never going to happen. I had believed that maybe in 96, 97, 98 maybe, but then I realized it wasn't that. But I did think that we might have a child, which is what I had really wanted. I realized...
So what happens between 2001 and then 2019 with your relationship with him?
So,
give or take 2001.
So we stopped having physicality. I mean, that doesn't mean we weren't friends. I certainly did stay sometimes in his room. Friends with benefits, if you will, just not sex. Sorry, just... and I started dating.
Okay.
And I met someone that I fell very much in love with in 2003. His name was Ted Waite. Ted Waite, you may know as the founder of Able Computers. And we had an amazing relationship that went on until 2010, I think. And I was with Ted from that time.
Did you meet him through Mr. Epstein?
No, well, indirectly, I suppose you could say. So, no, they never met. I was at a dinner where I met Ted, but it wasn't. I was with President Clinton. President Clinton was my friend, not Epstein's friend. And Epstein had flown him. And I was at dinner, and Ted came to the dinner. So I guess indirectly through Mr. Epstein, because it was his plane, but I'd have been there anyway without him. It was not
Was
dependent.
Epstein on the plane when you guys flew?
On that trip, yes. Yes. Yes.
So when you say the dinner was where?
Hong Kong.
Okay. And so you had flown over with, so who was on the plane for that trip? I don't mean everybody, but you said so Mr. Epstein was on the plane?
Yes.
You were on the plane?
Yes.
Who else? That you can remember? I'm not, you don't know what you remember.
Was President Clinton on the plane?
Clinton. He would have had his.
All right, what they're discussing now is what we discussed the other day, guys. They're asking about a former President Clinton, excuse me, good morning, everybody. President Clinton was on the plane. Was Trump on there? So we're going to do, guys, we're going to listen in for about 3 more minutes. And then at that point, we're going to take a break and discuss. All right, and do a little bit of a recap on this. All right, so let's listen a little bit more.
Maybe Jason Cooper. Maybe people too. Oh.
And so why? So how did you meet? So why did you say that's when you met him, and that you met him through Clinton?
Well, I don't think Ted would have been there had it not been it was a President Clinton dinner, and Ted came to be with President Clinton, not to be with Mr. Epstein. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, that part for me makes a little sense, but we'll talk about it. The questions about meeting former President Bill Clinton. Listen in.
That's why I say that.
Okay, so so in the time that you're dating, that you're with him to 2009, are you still working for Mr. Epstein during that time?
It'd be true to say that Jeffrey tried very hard, Mr. Epstein tried very hard to keep me, to working for him, because, this is a complex operation. I'm not talking about anything untoward, just the sheer size of the projects. I'm talking of the construction projects, the houses, the staff. It's a really significant job. And I ran all the properties, the staff in the properties, the management of the properties, and the construction. And we're talking tens of millions of dollars that I would have given. I can't remember what the budget was for the construction on any given year. It's gone. But these are very significant projects. And so that was what I did, and I managed the budgets. Well, I didn't manage the budgets, I oversaw the budget. So I would just make sure that if you said you bought an air conditioning plant, I saw an air conditioning plant, and I could call the island manager, did you receive the carrier, whatever,
When did Mr. Epstein purchase the island?
I want to say 96 or 97, something like that.
All right, we're going to stop right there, 96, 97. We're going to stop right there. We're going to talk a little bit here. Okay. All right, guys, welcome in here. We're gonna pause it right there. We're gonna talk a little bit. So she's under oath. Appreciate guys. I know a lot of you's already heard it, but maybe some didn't. Right now, they're gonna get into when he purchased the island. We're gonna take a little break from there. I might do another live later, but we're gonna discuss a little bit. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. Sorry, guys, let's get the audio down. So, what do you think? What do you think's going on here? Let me get the green screen here. Let's see here. That's Trump. Let's get her back here. Let's see. That's a good picture. Okay. What do you guys think's going on? So, what's your thoughts? This is part one. I haven't heard about part two. Now, part two, we don't know. I was reading some of your comments about a pardon. What I'm hearing is the sentence right now from the DOJ was this text over there in Texas. Remember, she was in Florida. That is her lighter sentence. But from my sources are saying DOJ, Trump's attorney, I guess you could say Donald Trump, he would be the pardon. They're not ruling out a pardon. They're not ruling it out, but they're not discussing. Now, what's your thoughts? I mean, it gets into now, it got into when she met Epstein, they got the island. I want everybody to understand something. This woman is a very sick, evil woman, as well as Epstein, who's not with us anymore, unalive. And they also go on in the video a little bit after that. What was her thoughts on him being, for YouTube rights, unalive? And she thought that there was no possibility that, he was unalive just for YouTube. She thought maybe it was some kind of a homicide. Now, this is that part there. A lot of people, when they have relatives or families, when people are unalive anymore, and they do those things, unfortunately, it's hard for people to digest that. So, that there for me, she's probably giving her honest opinion, right? Anyhow, but I got to tell you, a little sloppy. I'm going to call out the DOJ here. I really am. I think that Trump's attorney could have been a little bit, I'm not going to say the words better, but he could have went in earlier on this quote unquote this list, this documents and stuff like that. And he did not. I think he should have done that. Because I'm reading here, Todd Blanket, Trump's attorney, guys, he said originally, Todd Blanket, he said there's a black book. Now, here's what's going on. What's your thoughts? Because think about this. In organized crime, mafia, whatever it might be, drug cartels, you think they actually take a black book? So maybe there wasn't anything but a sign-in. I don't know. I don't think we're ever going to see it. Matter of fact, I would say a 1% chance we're ever going to see it. I think the black book is in her head. Meaning, I don't mean all made up, guys, that she knows these names. Now, I believe if I was the attorney, but now you can't hit Todd Blanket too much because he is Trump's lawyer and he's got to be careful, right? Exactly on how the testimony goes. But I think he should have got into some more of the questions like, okay, he got into about where we left off at the island. Why didn't they say, hey, by the way, you said that you didn't see anything happen on the plane with Bill Clinton, Donald Trump. Did you see anybody else maybe on the plane? Did you see anybody else mysterious in a black shirt, a white shirt, and a tie? And then that would have kind of like flipped her. Because you got to understand, guys, she is in a camp now in Texas, but still under max security. Try to get her mind to go. I didn't see any of that. And it goes on and on and on. And I can let you listen to it, but I'm not. It goes on and on. He's not giving her those tough questions. Guys, I'm just being real. I'm not calling Donald Trump out on this, guys. I'm just, I've been around attorneys. I almost was going to be an attorney myself. Where was there was no pressure. There was no pressure on that woman here. This woman right here. No pressure at all, in my opinion. I wish I had a better, I don't know why I couldn't get a better photo of her. Thought I had a better photo of her, but yeah, nothing. Yeah, we'll go right here. That photo is driving me crazy. And for me, guys, what do you think? Think there was you think Blanket could have had more pressure? Could have been a little bit more pressure on her, I think. Appreciate you guys being here. A lot of pages, guys, and this just goes on and on and on. I think I told you this, guys, before. we were probably not going to get any kind of big names. And I'm sure a lot of it because it's under some civil lawsuits too. I want to bring that to your attention too. A lot of it is because there is now apparently, according to Maxwell's attorneys, if you listened in the beginning, there was a bunch of attorneys in the room. Some of these names, whether they're big names or whatever, different people who participated in the room with these young girls, they can't go ahead and discuss that on this one-on-one it's an interview with Maxwell's attorney, Todd Blanket. So I understand that. I get that. I'll give them a pass on that. But, I don't understand why so many years that they just can't give us, they don't have to get into the detail, but if somebody was there, if some Joe Smith was there, theoretically speaking, if somebody was there, they don't have to get into all that. But the lawyer, the DOJ can say, what about this individual? When he was there? When was he there? Where was he there? Who was he where? And that's it. They don't even give us that. So I'm a little pissed off. I thought that should have been more. Again, guys, I still smell a rat. I personally smell a rat. Once again, guys, just my opinion. I don't think Donald Trump or former President Bill Clinton, either one of them, I don't think they participated. In fact, I'll even stretch out a little farther. There is no evidence or anything like that them being on the Epstein Island, right? But I smell a rat in the sense that there could be a possibility that the government and the people surrounding the government know more. And just for whatever reason, I'll just say it, are worried. Not about them, but they're worried about future of how the party's going to be run. I mean, this guys can go really deep, and I better just be careful, but it just doesn't sit right with me. It aggravates me because, once again, guys, this was about young women as young as 12 years old from all over the states, all over the world, and they need justice, and they have the right. When you hear her voice, you get the chills. She seems like calm and collective. Yes or no? Does she seem nice and calm? Because why? She was in a prison. Now she's in a camp where it's mostly women, all women, not mostly, all women who did no serious crimes that are going to be let out in 2 to 5 years. And she's serving 16 years and might get a lesser sentence to 5 or 10 years off her sentence, or even a pardon from Donald Trump, which we just don't know. Crazy, and I just smell a rat. I think something suspicious on here. But we got to remember that this woman was charged with sex trafficking. All right, I'm going to read some comments. Hello, Mike. Good to see you in here. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday morning. We just got finished listening to part 1. We weren't even halfway through. It wasn't even halfway through. It goes on and on and on. Yes, Kyrock, I was reading your message earlier. Yeah, there was a little bit of pausing. You can tell that. I can tell from the first 4 minutes, guys. First 4 minutes that she was not necessarily lying, but almost, for me, told by her attorneys exactly what to say. Here's where she went wrong, though. Here's where she went wrong off the attorneys. This is only my opinion. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. I'm Sal, your host. When she went off and interrupt Todd Blanket, that was the attorney from Donald Trump. When she went off to talk about her coming back to see her father, traveling back and forth to America, to New York, she was going off topic a little bit. That doesn't mean she's lying, but she's just, she's scared maybe, and maybe lying. I mean, it doesn't make sense. And, guys, this could be, I tell it as it is on here, guys. This could be going forward to part 2. If there's nothing more that comes out other than we're not going to discuss, Trump is innocent, and Clinton's innocent, Bill Gates might be innocent. Was everybody innocent? Because if it continues to be everybody innocent, well, guess what? They lied. Because the answer is no. Those people might be innocent, but there's still another. This place was not just open, just to come into the island. I mean, there was crimes committed. It's documented. There was crimes committed by these filthy men and maybe women. And yes, I was reading Ozzy's comment. There are sources I heard from Ghislaine Maxwell also participating with these. I'm only reporting, guys. Quote unquote, she was massaging these beautiful young innocent women at the age of 12 years old and 14, 15 years old. She was also participating on trying to get them comfortable and going to single family homes and bringing them back to the Epstein Island. So, just sick. But there must have been some other people. Lovey, how are you? Welcome in. Once again, Terry, welcome in. Appreciate you guys being here. But we'll see what happens with the part 2. Part 1 was just too much, overwhelmed, took a lot of time. They even gave her a break. If we would have listened to a little bit more, they gave her a break of some kind. The thing that bothers me is if we don't correct this problem, AKA Diddy, if we don't correct these problems with these high profile, or just your neighbor, your whatever, if we don't correct these problems with sex trafficking, molesting kids, hurting kids, we know about the story that's being held out there right now. I was going to cover today. If we don't step in and put them behind bars, for life, my opinion, for life, then where do we go forward with our grandkids, our kids, our future? Is this stuff going to continue to happen? And just give these lighter sentence. And when it becomes high profile people, and I'm not just referring to the government, athletes, entertainers, the movie stars, all these people. Absolutely, so well said. Janine says, I want all clients arrested yet. It doesn't matter who the hell they are. And justice for that sums it up right there. That there just sums it all up. That with Janine's comment, yes. Doesn't matter who they are. It could be your relative. It could be my relative. It could be my whoever. Doesn't matter. That stuff there is justice. So, well said. All right, we have only 24 likes in here. Wow. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Appreciate it. Get rid of that there. All right, I'll read some comments here. Nacho 404, welcome in. Reading Terry's comment. Thank you, Terry, for your comment. Thank you for being here once again. Appreciate it. Yeah, that's a good point too, Janine. So the question is in the chat, in case you missed it there. So is Bondi still going to go through the videos? Yeah, I'm hearing that she still has her hands in there, hands on there as far as the videos go. So. Yeah, I mean, that's simply it, Kyrock. I mean, guys, I'm not just saying this because I am a Trump supporter and I also voted for Clinton. I'm just going to say this. There's just no records on either former president or president. If there was some kind of documents on record, the only thing that was on record is that Epstein gave money to the Clinton Foundation. All right. But I know a lot of people don't like Bill Clinton and there's Republicans on here, but that doesn't mean that Bill Clinton is guilty. I mean, I could care less. It doesn't mean he's guilty. So there's no evidence on either president, former president, Bill Clinton or Donald Trump. And So I guess because they're not under any kind of civil action or any kind of stuff, they were able to rule out the presidents, if that makes sense. But I still think if there was an athlete out there or a movie star or a senator, I feel justice for all, like Janine says. There should be ways. See, I think Todd Blanket handled it wrong. I think he should say, hey, by the way, okay, Clinton and Trump didn't get massages. Thank you so much for that testimony. But did you see anybody with Bill Clinton? Did you see anybody with Donald Trump? Get her to stutter, talk a little faster. So for me, he's not a good attorney, or he's got to be very careful in what he says because he wants to keep his job. Because let's face it, if he says the wrong thing, Trump will fire him. And I don't mean say the wrong thing like make something up on Trump. I'm just saying if he doesn't go in the order that Trump basically wants to go in. So this is very difficult to even report this, very difficult to cover. It's definitely 100% a cover up rat going on here. And they just don't want to expose those other people. But he should have said that, hey, who was on the plane? By the way, let's go. Okay, you said they're not, they weren't on the plane. Clinton, Trump, thank you for that testimony on the oath. We appreciate it. And then a lawyer can X them out. However, did you see anybody else in a suit or might have been hanging out? I mean, I don't understand. The questions was just not done correctly, in my view. But we'll follow this, guys. We'll follow a little bit more. Absolutely. There's so much sickos out there. 3 blind mice, in my opinion. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree, Ozzy. Yeah, there's so many sickos out there that there's a lot of people out there that want to bring kids into this world, right? And they allegedly take their own. We're going to be covering that story a little bit more. Just hard. Hey, veteran Chris, appreciate you being here. Thank you for your service. Thank you. Yeah, we're just coming towards, we've been on for an hour, most of it listening into the audio footage of this piece of shit, Maxwell, who sounds like, if you heard her voice, guys, did you guys pick it up? Calm, collective, almost like you can hear in her voice begging to be released, but keep in mind, guys, she did some horrific things by bringing these young ladies to an island, and she was convicted of these crimes. So it wasn't like hearsay. She was the judge, jury said, hey, you're going away. So very difficult times. Hello, Glorabelle. So yeah, we just listened into the tapes of Ghislaine, Maxwell, DOJ, Todd Blanket, and it's all out on YouTube. It goes on and on and on. Every YouTube channel is going to bring it up based on the political views and stuff like that. I'm not. I kind of separate that for a little bit. I will just say at this end of our live, I still feel, for me, that former President Bill Clinton and Donald Trump are completely innocent. But I also believe that Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, and the government is hiding something. Does that make sense? I am not saying that they're guilty. They are innocent in my eyes. This is my opinion, because there's no trace of anything going there. But I think there might be a little tiny bit of a cover-up on both parties of some selected Congress members, there. And they got to be very careful on the wording. And it's a shame. Terry says, Sal, I agree with that as well. Yeah, let's just be honest. It doesn't mean that, they just got to be very, very careful. It's a very, and I'm not defending Trump, but God forbid Trump lets some of these, and it's unfortunate. This is only my opinion, guys. Only my opinion. Unfortunately, let's say there is a name on Republican, Democrat. Don't matter. They would be a piece of shit in my book. And I'm not saying there is. There might not be. But if that gets exposed, not only it can be very violent for both parties in some way. They already tried to assassinate Trump once, so I'm just saying, it doesn't make it right, And that's if there's anybody that the government, I'll just throw the whole government involved. So, and just maybe there's nobody in government involved, but I would find that. You think it was just movie stars? You think it was just athletes, basketball, and baseball, and football? Rock and roll band, country band? You think that was it? You're billionaires? Bill Gates? Is that it? You telling me there was no senator, governor, at least at the island, which don't make them guilty? Let's just say, for an example, I'm going to end this real soon. There was a governor or a senator who did go to the island, but didn't do anything wrong. That doesn't make he or she guilty. But what it makes is testimony. Give us information. They don't want to be involved. They don't want to be involved. And that's sad. That's very sad. Very, very sad situation on this. And I think a lot of us were, real quickly, guys, I think a lot of us were hoping and praying that there would be, I think most of us knew that Trump and Clinton are completely innocent as far as this goes, right? But I think a lot of us were hoping that we would hear about one big name, two big names, and then hopefully they would go under, and open that up, but not the case so far. So far. Thank you, Glorabelle. Don't do that. Thank you so much. Thank you for the hard work. Appreciate it, Glorabelle. Thank you. Glorabelle coming through, $5 for the homeless people. And that's what we do on this channel. We forward the money to help out the homeless people struggling here. So thank you, Glorabelle. Thank you, Ozzy, so much for all your hard work. And I know you don't want to hear this, but thank you so much for making this channel where it's at. Thank you, all moderators. We are going to continue for a few more minutes, and then I'm going to move on. We're going to continue taking a break. I got a story I want to cover later on regarding that little baby and what we know. We're going to talk about that, what's happening. Let's be honest, if you weren't for Trump being president, this would be front page news. Sad but true. Absolutely, Terry. I couldn't agree with you more. That's another great comment. Actually, I'm going to just pin that on there. That's a great comment right there. Wow, that is a great comment. Very, very good. Lemon J, thank you so much. Appreciate your generosity. Lemon J, you do so much as being a moderator. You do not have to do that. I thank you. And you know it's passed forward along with Glorabelle, Ozzy's, Crystals, and everybody else who's donated here. I thank you so very, very much, Terry, and so on and so forth. I just got an update here. Hold on real quick. So they're talking about the next interview is going to be in 2 weeks. So there's more of this interview with Ghislaine Maxwell. Yeah, I mean, they're going to be another 4-hour back and forth with the DOJ again. I mean, what are they going to come out with? Are they going to get into Bill Gates a little bit? Are they going to discuss Bill Gates? Are they going to, they're going to tell us, are they going to tell the victims and the family anything else we don't know? Don't make sense. So I don't know. We'll have to see what happens with all this. Hey guys, I'm going to sign off here a little bit. Make sure you have all the notifications on, guys. I do want to talk a little bit more what's going on with this baby, Emmanuel, and on how right now we know they've been arrested. Keep everybody up to date with that. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. just give us a little bit more perspective on what's going on here with Ghislaine Maxwell and the Epstein files. For me, there will be one more interview, of course. They already said it. And I think that's going to be it. I think she's very careful on what she's saying. I'm pretty sure they gave her a Valium. I'm pretty sure they made her as relaxed as possible. She's, and I believe, and I hope I'm wrong, she will get a lighter sentence. She will get a lighter sentence. Thank you for being here, guys. God bless everybody. Thank you so much. Gloria Bell Lemon J. I think I missed another donation earlier. Sal, the National Guard is coming to Nevada. Yeah, and Gloria Bell, thank you for bringing that up to me, because I will say this real quick, guys. I also heard that we are one of the 7 states that Trump wants to fight on crime. And our Governor Lombardo, he's a Republican, agrees on that. So he's sending funding to Nevada. And I don't know if that's why the National Guards are coming here, but I'm sure that's what Gloria Bell alluded to. And Chicago, because they want to fight crime, as crime has escalated in these big cities. And Trump gave out some numbers last week that there has been multiple arrests in just 1 week. So maybe we'll go over that. There is 19 states. Oh, yeah, and Gloria Bell, thank you for sending that. Yes, 19 states. I stand corrected, not 7. 19 states. So they're fighting crime because it's working. And who in the right mind, aren't we all for not more crime? Do you want to live near crimes? No. We want to be, we got enough to worry about in our lives, right? To worry about crime. So it's the right thing to do. And I know it touched me real low with the homeless, but hey, Trump's not just removing the homeless and putting them in jail. He wants to take these people and escalate them and get them into a better environment and those who need help. So maybe we'll discuss that. Maybe we'll go on something else. But make sure all the notifications are set, guys. God bless you all. Thank you so much, guys. I know it's not on one of those big explosive lives, but as Lemon J alluded to a couple times, if he doesn't mind, we are all on here, and sometimes a little easier to read the chat when it's a little slower. So thank you. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Gloria Bell, for sending that information on those. I thought it was only 7 states. Wow. All distractions from the Epstein files. Kyrox, thanks for being here. God bless you all, guys. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you later on if you make it. Take care. I think I knocked over that whole water from the dogs. I'll clean it up. Whoops. I forgot to sign off. Dumped over the water. 35. What did I just do here? I'll clean it up. Thank you, guys.